Joint USC Marshal, and to start up this program and the center, and what a wonderful job he has done. I'm really proud of the achievements that we have made this, both our master's program as well as the center's activities as such. Impact on society, creating talent, and creating future leaders. That is what we wanted to do, and he's done a marvelous job in doing that. Our session today is a continuation of what just was spoken about the last two sessions. Virginia Sanders and Chris Poole set the stage on transformation, the issues and opportunities that are now available to companies in this area of supply chain digitization. I'm not going to go any further into that. We have four wonderful speakers who are going to now excite you. Please welcome Wendy Brahmin, who is a principal at Vertex. He will be setting the stage just like what we had from Chris on the industry and how it's viewing digitization and the challenges there. Our next speaker will be Noemi Romero, Executive Director Supply Chain for Amgen, to my right here. She will be talking about Amgen's challenges and opportunities in this space and how she's leading some of the initiatives that Amgen is going to do. After she speaks, we have on my left Yohan Lee, who is the Vice President of IT for Mattel. And again, you know, Mattel and its global footprint and how they are trying to put together their digitization strategies for Mattel. And rounding out our session will be Cindy Elliott, to my far left. She's head of global commercial industry go-to-market manufacturing and logistics strategy for Esri. We'll be talking about an implementation. There are challenges, there are opportunities, and actual implementation now. They've succeeded in some of these things that we've talked about in the last two sessions. So without any much more ado, thank you for being here, and I will allow Venkit to take the stage. Venkit?
Good morning. Good to be here. Thank you, Ravi, for the nice introduction. So I know we are standing between you and lunch, so we'll try to keep it crisp. The topic, as Ravi said, is supply chain transformation. And 30 seconds on my background. I cut my teeth in supply chain before it was chic. So I was actually a materials manager, procurement guy, solving complex problems such as how do you feed the assembly line just in time? How do you make sure that quality is not compromised but cost is optimized? And how do you have a backup suppliers while you make sure that the entire process running just fine? So things like that. And then I moved to marketing and also to sales and finally to technology. So I have a very good view of how the entire world is connected to supply chain and a great appreciation of what technology can do to solve complex supply chain problems. So let me set the stage by opening the slide number one, which is how important is supply chain transformation, especially in the digital world. So there was a survey done recently, last year, by a leading multinational IT provider, and they asked global executives, all in supply chain, about 350 of them, and got their feedback as to what they think is happening in the digital transformation space in supply chain. And the answers were quite interesting. 75% of them said supply chain transformation is extremely important for their organizations, which is fantastic. And the other interesting thing is 70% also said they have already started some form of digital transformation in their organizations. So this is fantastic. I mean, assuming the respondents were decision makers and executives at senior organizations, and assuming they are all unique, which means this is a fantastic news that most organizations are down the path already. But guess what? I can advance here. No. I'm sorry, I'm having clicker troubles here. Oh, there it is. So as you can see, in the same study, we prepared some results also. And what's startling is only 5% were satisfied with what was going on, and the investments they were making in supply chain and digital transformation was paying dividends. 33% were dissatisfied, and 62% were neutral. I mean, to me, that's a, while we have been talking about supply chain transformation for a number of years, this is a pretty startling revelation. And so what are the reasons why we are in this situation? So let's go to the next slide. So why is there such a high level of dissatisfaction? I classify this into 3 buckets. First 2 buckets reflect the current state. So the bucket number 1 is where organizations in supply chain are making investments in CRM, ERP, and things like that, but predominantly for internal organizations. So hundreds of millions of dollars are spent in making sure those functions are really top-notch. The second bucket is around the company and their customers. So that's where it's been, I guess, in a fast forward quite a bit. So the investments have been in the area of, okay, let's make sure that they're connected customers, so therefore investments in CRM and e-commerce and things like that. But to me, we need to go for the D. We need to be completely connected, not just within your organization and your customers, but also with your customers, your suppliers, your retailers, and everyone along the way. And that, to me, is the transformation that we need to be looking at in order to get the value out of the investments in digital transformation. Sounds good so far? So there's a huge opportunity for us. So I set the stage for saying that we need to go deep. So what did I mean by that? In our mind, based on our experience, there are 4 key supply chain strategies that will drive digital transformation. Number 1, I'm going to spend a few minutes on this, is customer-centric connected ecosystem. What I mean by this is, you think of your supply chain consisting of retailers, logistics providers, manufacturers, logistics, customers, and what have you. You need to have a way for connecting all of them, not just in silos. And if, let's say, the customer calls and say, I want to know where my shipment is, and let's say you outsourced your shipment to another transportation vendor, and they subcontract with somebody else, and you have the answer that the customer is not waiting for, then you need to scramble and say, where is it stuck? And you say, oh, the customer is stuck, the shipment is stuck in Boston. By the way, Boston, things don't get stuck. So you need to figure out quickly how to respond to the customer and be agile. And a connected system is very important for you to be successful. And cloud, which I will talk in a second, enables you to precisely get there. Now, by doing this, I'm not saying we replace ERP systems or anything like that, but take the existing ERP systems, but key processes and data, and make sure that you're connected in a collaborative fashion through the cloud. So the next one, the key pillar is synchronized planning. Now, when you talk about planning, you generally think about siloed planning. So within organizations, within suppliers, they have their own planning based on their data and research. When it comes to manufacturers, they have their own planning, and same with logistics providers and so on. So they all use their historic data to make sure they forecast and plan and things like that. But there's one step that we need to go further, which is to make sure that there is something called concurrent planning. So move away from sequential planning and move into concurrent planning. And big data is a big influencer. You heard the keynote speaker this morning talk about big data and analytics. Helps you tremendously. And if you look at where big data has evolved, suppliers like Amazon and Microsoft, they're producing environments like Redshift and R libraries and things like that, you can set them up in literally minutes and get access to sophisticated algorithms that can access your data lakes and provide you information you're looking for, whether it be analytics in a predictive manner or what-if scenarios and things like that. So the stage is set for you to really embrace synchronized planning and move away from sequential planning. The third one I want to talk to you about is intelligent optimization. And by intelligent optimization, what I mean is, how do you respond to your customers quickly? Say, if they say, oh, I want an order batch of quantity 1, can you really respond to that quickly? Can you say that my batch consists of, let's say, 8-ounce bottles 50 other than 100-ounce bottles 50 other? How do you respond to those kinds of complex changing requirements in a very dynamic fashion? And we are solving some of those problems with the enabling cloud, IoT, and also analytics. And the last item in the pillars is end-to-end transparency. Now, yesterday I'm sure you read the news about the virus, the poisoning, food poisoning in 12 batches of lettuce and wrap products with Kroger's and some other major retailers. But interestingly, they identified the problem quickly and have issued recall and notices. So the idea is, how do you track these purchases that have eventually wound up in customer shelves and make sure that you issue recalls selectively as opposed to massive recalls? Now, blockchain is, you heard again this morning, the investments in blockchain is going up substantially, $9 billion by 2020. Blockchain is being effectively used to track the product, not at the point of delivery, but even beyond at the customer consumer locations. So those are the 4 key things that I want to highlight. And moving on, I've been given the 2-minute warning. So because of lack of time, I'm going to focus on one key enabling technology. I mentioned 4 pillars, and one of the key pillars is cloud. Now, cloud, by definition, is elastic. And what does elastic mean? You don't need investments in huge capital. You don't need your IT department to be around to set up things for you. So it provides you the scale that you need to address problems, prototype in a very short manner, short window, and then if it proves, then you can scale it very quickly. Again, you have major infrastructure providers offering you significant platforms in the cloud that helps you drive towards easy integration. For example, within the ERP systems, let's say you take some key processes outside and you want to integrate these in the cloud. The cloud providers such as Salesforce, they recently acquired a company called MuleSoft. They focus exclusively on integration. So they make it possible for you to take key processes and data out of your ERP systems, bring it outside, do integration quickly using cloud, and then keep the data back in your ERP systems. So the key point I would like to highlight is the technology is here, and it's very possible to do quick prototyping, test your market, test your customers' needs, and then scale it rapidly using cloud. So, in summary, I would like to highlight the key thing. Digital transformation is not just within your organization or within your organization and your customer. It has to encompass retailers, logistics providers, and the entire value chain. And there are 4 key pillars, and those 4 key pillars can be enabled by cloud, big data, IoT, and blockchain. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkit. Noemi will now take over the Amgen story.
Hi to all of you. I want to start giving you a little bit of context. Let's see that. There we go. A little bit of context on my background. So I moved to California about a year ago. Before that, I worked in Puerto Rico. Amgen has a big facility in Puerto Rico that has 6 manufacturing plants, and I was the lead of supply chain at that particular facility. I moved about a year ago to lead what we call the supply chain excellence team, which is is nothing else but a transformation group of people that work with platforms, strategic projects, data and systems and controls. So everything that you're going to see here has more the approach of a manufacturing environment. I have worked on distribution, so it connects fairly easy. And as you probably know, the biggest challenge that manufacturing companies and pharmaceuticals in particular have had over the past couple of years has really to do with their footprint. How much have they expanded? How many products do they have? How are they managing from raw material vendors all the way to distribution? How do they manage the data and the complexities that come with that? So at Amgen in particular, we've experienced that phenomenon very well. Particularly through the form of global expansion and complexity in the product portfolio. So we were distributing in 2010 to about 50 countries. We're distributing to over 100 countries today. The SKU has triplicated the SKU portfolio that we had before. And with every SKU, as you know, comes a lot of complexity, particularly when you go into more emerging markets that have slightly different regulations and different controls. So that has become a big challenge for us. The different types of customers and markets in which we go in have different requirements and have a lot of variability. So that planning integration that my colleague is speaking about is very important, right? Being able to read that signal from all the way from the patient to the manufacturing process. So those have been two of our biggest challenges. Then in addition to that, as you know, the proliferation of data, not only our internal data, but the data of the vendors that we work with, that becomes very, very critical. And also the changing regulatory and compliance environment. Many of you may not be from the pharmaceutical area, but I can tell you in the pharmaceutical in particular, traceability of the product has become a big, big issue. So we are now chartered with not only understanding how we move that product within our own value chain, but we're also chartered with following all the way that traceability to the patient's hands. And this is great in the sense that helps us secure the safety and the quality of the product, but it does become very challenging in how do you move that data and how do you really track that particular SKU. So, lots of challenges and opportunities. What we have done at Amgen, similar to, the industry in general, let's see if I can get this, okay. We focus on 3 particular areas. Of course. Let's see if I can go back. And I'm going to speak to you about agility and shorter cycle times, so this becomes relevant in the process. Yeah, I did the back already. Let's see if it works. All right. So while we get that fixed, we focused on a couple of areas. One area that we focus on, I spoke about the traceability piece. It's really how do we connect our systems, how do we expand our ERP processes and the systems with, many times, with other companies, thank you, with other companies more on the distribution stage, and how do we share that data with them, right? So it's not only sharing the data with the particular wholesaler or distributor that is buying a product, but it's sharing that data with many other companies and regulators that actually want to receive particular traces of the data components. So a lot of our efforts has been on establishing controls and establishing the different traceability platforms. With that traceability, you do get the byproduct of understanding better how the product is moving. So a lot of our efforts have been on understanding how can we leverage from that into our business. So we can understand better the different demand signals, and we can understand better how can we connect that visibility with our production schedules. So that has been a challenge, but at the same time an advantage to the way that we're managing the overall portfolio. From the very second one that you see right there has to do with agility. I think one of the projects that we're working on is optimizing inventory. And as you guys know, you don't optimize inventory, you optimize the supply chain to be able to get that benefit. And that has been a very interesting project because when we started, we realized that not only were we not really optimizing our models that were, but we were not updating as frequently the lead times of our different cycles and ultimately the lead time to the customer. So we've been measuring that, doing lots of improvements on that, and really thinking on the grounds of, you do get a better, working capital ratio if you optimize your inventory. But more importantly than that, if you're able to reduce that lead time, you can react faster to that variability, which nowadays it is one of the challenges that we have, making sure that we can measure what really the consumption of the product is going to be. So that has been a big area. To be able to measure that agility, of course, we need to understand all the analytics behind it. What are the leading indicators that help us be faster? And that has been a big implementation at Amgen, trying to get enterprise data lakes going, trying to get the right visualization, and connecting the data so we can actually drill down and understand the drivers of the different things that are happening in the company. And it really sounds easier than done. It's certainly not easy because we never set up our systems for that. So just trying to clean up the data, structure it, connect it, making sure that manufacturing plan A uses the fields in the ERP system the same way that manufacturing B uses the fields in the ERP system is certainly not an easy task. So that has been a lot of the effort that we put in over the past year. And the efforts on visibility, on agility, and on controls are nothing but the platform to really the new segmented supply chain that we have at Amgen. We've started a project in 2013, so it's been about 5 years. We actually moved the project that we implemented into sustaining phase late last year. And what we did with that particular project is that we segmented the supply chain with 3 different models. One model for the market that has a lot of variability and low volume. One model for the market that has high volume and low variability, so really our more standard and efficient type of market. And then one model for new products that have a lot of volume, lots of expectations, but that we really don't know what's going to happen after we launch. And we did change planning processes, sourcing processes, scheduling processes, and distribution processes for those 3 segments. It has been a very interesting experience, particularly this segment that has a lot of variability and smaller volume. So the newer markets that we're in has benefited from that. This segment has a lot of public-based type of consumption, so we need to react very fast when we win a tender order in a particular country. And that has really championed the way that we see supply chain in our company. So just to summarize it, at the end, we do everything in the hope of really addressing the needs of 3 different segments. We do it through agility in the way that we do our processes, reductions of cycle time. And we also do it with end-to-end visibility and analytics that we've started to develop to really reach that level of precision and prediction, right? And controls, of course, and traceability in a company like ours, which is highly regulated, really become key to everything that we're doing. It almost becomes a platform to the rest of the work. So, thank you for your time. I pass it along to Yohan, who's going to speak a little bit more about corporate experiences, more focused on the IS side. Thank you.
And from Mattel's perspective.
I'm from Mattel's perspective.
Thanks for having me here. When I got invited to be on the panel, I asked myself, supply chain conference, I'm an IT guy, what do I have to contribute? Then I recognized and realized that a lot of the transformation we're doing in IT is for the benefit of the supply chain. So I want to give you kind of some context of just a company. Some of you may not be familiar with kind of our breadth. So we have this kind of company on one slide. We're 50 plus years old, or many years before that. Our current revenue is about $5 million in revenue. You recognize brands like Barbie, Hot Wheels, of course, Fisher Price, American Girl. So those are all brands that are on our level. We, unlike some of our competitors, own a lot of manufacturing. So we have 10 finished good manufacturing plants around the world. And we're constantly evaluating our global footprint. We do business, whether it's through direct distribution business model or through our distributors up in certain countries. And we also use a lot of molds. These are the tools that go into our machine to pump out die-cast cars or plastic dolls. So this is kind of a company plan. So toy industry is very dynamic. We're constantly, in the last 5-10 years, constantly being challenged with the shrinking playtime that our kids go through. Because there's so many things that compete for their time. Sorry. That's fine. I can hear myself. As well as the advent of e-commerce, so the industry is constantly changing in the last 5+ years. There's a lot of increase in direct-to-consumer as an additional sales channel, while we still have a very good partnership with the retailers. And we're constantly debating with ourselves on how much technology do we build into our toys. Do we stay to the basics, or do we try to create connected products? And in a lot of areas, we've tried and failed, because we tried to put a connected Barbie, some of you may have heard. We got a lot of backlash because people are afraid of privacy issues and concerns, especially when you're dealing with children. So the industry is very dynamic, still changing. So I'll go through a few challenges, and I'll end with just a quick overview on some of the transformational initiatives that we're currently carrying through, and a lot of similarities from the stories that you just heard from Amgen. So challenge number one is, how do we address with the technology that's required to go into a toy? We have a very traditional kind of waterfall approach to product development. We have a very traditional approach to introducing that product into the market, but how do you then suddenly disrupt that with technology? Because the business is not ready to, or doesn't have a good process to introduce software into the entire development supply chain. We've gone from maybe 3 years ago where different brands and different development teams would do their own software development, and each of them had to struggle with creating COPPA compliance or getting through a lot of the regulatory requirements that are required to go into a software and connected platform. Whereas today, we've created a digital platform that all of the brands can leverage and connect into. So we solved the COPPA issue once and for all for everyone. So that was the type of challenge we had to go through when we tried to introduce technology, especially connected products technology, into our toys. Second is, we do have a very complex product portfolio. Depending on who you talk to in the company, we may think ourselves as a CPG company. But some people may think, or especially on the creative side, think we're a fashion company. If you look at Barbie as an example, there's a lot of fashion around that, and we put a lot of pride and passion into developing different looks for Barbie. And then ultimately, we're also a brand company. So how do we leverage our brands and content to entertain and to create experiences that hopefully will then get them to buy our products? So depending on the product portfolio, we did address this through different segmentation. How do we have a different supply chain potentially? How do we have a different development process potentially for each of these segments? And the third challenge is the seasonality nature of our products. Majority of our revenue, whether we make it or break it, is decided by that critical month of November, December. How do we right now, as I sit here in August, we're at manufacturing peak. We're producing toys at the peak. All of our plants are busy, and we're building up inventory since about May to meet the demands that are required in November and December. So it's an extremely seasonal business, but supply chain, how do we then flatten that supply and demand curve the entire year has been a constant challenge. And one of the, I'll talk about one of the initiatives that we're working on is to try to address this. And lastly, this is kind of near and dear to my heart, is we have a very custom, homegrown set of applications that's been developed through the years. And it's evolved through the years. And it's evolved along with the business process. So whether you think of it being an IT challenge or a business challenge is really the same thing, because we currently have multiple legacy systems. That's kind of our core ERP throughout the world, depending on the market you're in. But ultimately, we all share a similar supply chain. So how do we connect all of this together? And we are leveraging capabilities like cloud that was talked about by Venkit, and that how do we then bring that data up into a common platform like an operational data store or data lake, so we can connect with our partners in a more seamless manner that will help facilitate the information exchange to help with supply chain initiatives. So to address some of these challenges, I highlighted 4 sample of our current transformational initiatives. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of these during the Q&A session or after the session. So the first one is our transformational initiative that we have just completed. We call it the Control Tower program. And this is maybe has 4 components. At the end is we want to have end-to-end supply chain visibility. So we've aligned a demand planning process globally, depending on the market you're in. Everyone now follows a similar demand planning process. We've established an enterprise supply planning organization where they're responsible for working with the supply side of whether it's a supply base or our own manufacturing plants. And they go through a very rigorous monthly SIOP process, supply, inventory, optimization planning, supply chain process through a monthly process to discuss all the variances or issues that come up and make critical business decisions around inventory, around demand. The second one is the digital design development. So today, and this is just in probably the first phase of it out of a 3-phase program. Today, we do a lot of design development still not digitally. We may do some things digitally, but we do not collaborate digitally. And there's a lot of opportunities there. So when a designer sketches something out, a toy concept, that gets translated to a development community that actually goes into a CAD system to do the mechanical CAD design or the fabric design, that gets turned over to whether it's a contract manufacturing or our own plants for production. Those 3 major phases are done kind of separate from each other, and there's a lot of information that's lost and a lot of rework, and what comes out at the end of this is a lot of room for errors, and then that just causes more spin, and therefore increases your entire lead time, product development time. So we're creating a digital platform that allows all 3 kind of major parties to collaborate together through a single source of truth that has a single vault, so everyone's aware of what's going on. And then the most beneficial part of this is actually the end asset that gets, the digital asset that gets results at the end, can also be used for commercial purposes. Think of it from applying it on Amazon, using that digital asset for the image that you actually see on the website, or for commercial purposes like creating a cartoon on Netflix. So that's the end vision, where we have an entire end-to-end digital network for collaboration of the products. Third one is maybe shifting gear a little bit to our manufacturing facility. We heard a little bit about, I think Gartner had the example of Hire, where they're doing IoT at the plants. So we're also investing in some of our facilities to do overall equipment effectiveness, but at a level where all the all the machines are connected. So we get real-time visibility on the performance, and then how that influences our supply signal throughout the supply chain. And lastly, at some of our distribution centers around the world, we're also doing a lot more automation, robotics, AGV, and that's connected through our WMS, so warehouse management systems. So it's an ongoing investment to take the human factor out and to improve efficiency. So those are, just want to share some highlights on some of the strategic initiatives that we're working on. Happy to answer any questions, and then for now, I'll pass it over to Cindy.
This is the do not show. So for me, there's a little bit of my bio. So in context, I think we all set up a little bit of context. I have nearly 20 years in the supply chain, manufacturing kind of sectors. My role has always been out in the field, either in distribution, resale, retail. Keep going. That's the old version. Okay. Delete these slides. And then, so always in distribution and retail, and then in service, working in manufacturers, and moving towards that advanced services or services now. So I approach supply chain in that way, and then most recently joined Esri. If you're not familiar with Esri, they are geospatial sciences, a geospatial analytics software company. And we work across the globe. We're based in Redlands, California, founded by Jack and Laura Dangermond 50 years ago. We've worked with global health organizations, intelligence organizations, and now are transferring that same technology capability into more of the supply chain, global supply chain. We're very oriented around what's happening locally and physically, and helping companies understand how to digitize that, and organizations to digitize that. Trying to fill some space, but so what else can I tell you? So Esri, again, if you're not familiar with Esri, Jack and Laura Dangermond, we're gonna move over here now. So this is a slide I just wanted to put up there as a starting point, and it really does embrace a lot of the information we've already heard. This is a paper that came out just a few months ago from Deloitte and MAPI, I think that's the Manufacturing Association of Process and Innovation, and it's called Embracing a Digital Future, how manufacturers, and I would say supply chain organizations, can unlock the transformative benefits of the digital supply network. And I think that's kind of a wrapper to a lot of things we've talked about today. And they really talk about this concept of supply chain transformation. And one of my favorite images in the middle of the page here is this concept of the linear supply chain. And that's the end-to-end, and the develop to support. And so often in my career, I've seen companies really think about the supply chain in that linear fashion. My team who's in the room know that that's one of my pet peeves. I absolutely do not believe in the end-to-end or the linear supply chain. In fact, we represent it now in our materials as a network, and that's what you see over here, over on the right, is that none of us operate in an end-to-end today. In fact, end-to-end, thinking about process end-to-end, actually creates kind of disconnectedness and errors in the beginning that become whiplashes, and what I call tidal waves by the time we get to the end. By leveraging and incorporating more and more of our supply chain information and process onto the cloud and into the web, we're creating a network now that provides that transparency and that visualization never before able to us or available to us. The bottom pie chart, also from the report, is that one of the statistics in the report, very similar to what we heard before, is that 98% of companies believe that supply chain transformation, that digitally enabling your supply chain, what I call a thinking supply chain, has 98% of companies say it has a significant improvement on their business, more competitive advantage, more insights, and the ability to respond to what's happening in the market. Yet the chart shows that only 28% of organizations have put together a significant program related to digitizing. Earlier today, we heard one of our speakers talk about moving from having digital products and digital strategies to being digital. And there's a difference in that, and it's being digital first, but it's also as you move and do things, do them digitally. So this is a great report. It's one of several that we could get from Deloitte and from Ernst and from Gartner, but it just shows that there's such a tremendous opportunity for organizations to embrace this. The rest of what I wanted to share in the next few minutes is a scenario that we've worked very closely with a global sports apparel manufacturer, shoes, outfits, equipment, everything, it'd be a very recognizable brand that I can't mention. But they didn't start this journey in a lighthearted fashion, right? They knew that globally they needed to have more transparency and awareness of what was happening across their global supply chain. Sorry, can we go to the next slide? And so where they started though, it was very simple. They just were looking to digitize everything that they already knew about their supply chain. We heard today about this proliferation of Excel spreadsheets. And last night at the reception, I talked to a particular organization in the room, and they said, they've said their organization needs to be digital, and so everybody sends in their Excel spreadsheets digitally by email. And I'm like, yeah, good step. But wouldn't it be great if you could move those all up into a cloud in a format that allowed you to see all these things side by side? And so what we show here is the very first step, and it would be impossible in many cases to digitize everything, but you have to start. The cloud allows organizations to get started, take any information you know, and put it into a digital way that you could visualize it and see it. And here, very simply, is an app that's called Supply Chain Explorer that this sports apparel and equipment manufacturer put together. And what you see in the difference in the dots, and we can show you more of this, is the plants, the daily output by those plants, tier 1, tier 2, and even tier 3 suppliers if they so choose. If you continue to drill into the experience, you can see the distribution outlets, the routes that the distribution travels between retail and distribution. So it's just a very simple explorer, and you can click on any of the buttons and see what plant, what products are coming out of there, and it's just a very first step. But then they've continued to evolve it. Once they got that information, they said now they want to see not everything. They want to see what they are most concerned about. What's happening in my global ecosystem today that has a concern for me? So they integrated real-time data feeds. Weather, traffic, social unrests, political unrest, and those are things. So there's a real-time feed. You see little red dots. You see earthquake symbols. So you start to be able to see, as a supply chain leader, and then what you see across the columns is what is the implication, what's the risk that you have, and then you can navigate the experience to narrow in and just drill in on each individual. So again, starting small, they moved out everything on the cloud. Once it was out there, it was easy to what we refer to as start layering these things together. And then you're able to see at a street level all the way to a global level what are the most important things happening across the globe. And then this next one is called a supplier performance dashboard. Similarly, if you're on the supplier side, being able to see the red dots globally and be able to go in and down to the street level, and then be able to query it. What's happening there? Was it an earthquake? What's the risk that we're facing from this particular supplier? And you can do this again at one or all of your suppliers at any single view. And someone asked me earlier today, how is this different from Google Maps and things like that? Those are dots on maps, which are very useful when we're trying to get from point A to point B. But this moves into that intelligence word, I think that Noemi and others talked about, is moving from being just a piece of data to a level of intelligence that you can interpret. And so here we think about visualizing globally, investigate locally, and then even going so far here, what you're able to see is on the far right-hand side, a particular supplier is directly in the path of a major weather incident that will disrupt their business for any given, for a day, 2 days, and you're being able to see instantly the traceability or the tracing between that supplier and the plans that they provide. So coming up with a contingency plan and enacting a contingency plan. Not this particular manufacturer, but one of our agriculture companies uses it to trace all the way from the berry farm, the berry field row, out to the consumer. So it's the same idea of once you connect, I heard someone talking about sensors and connecting, once that's all in place, you're getting such a wealth of information to digitize and visualize things in a different way. But again, this removed all those dots and just really showed you the most important implication, right? The most significant impacts that your supply chain would face in a day. So it's just a kind of a very high level to show the value and the move towards this cloud-based visualization, traceability, and of what's happening across the supply chain. And then this company continues to do very innovative things with the software, but it's just a kind of a glimpse into how to move those things to a whole different realm. So, and how could I forget? And blockchain. The whole premise and a big part of what companies are being able to do today then is building a foundation. By going digital, not only are you helping your immediate impacts and visibility and the timeliness in which your organization can make decisions about disruption, but you're also building what I believe is a foundation for moving to blockchain. We heard stats today in the neighborhood of 90% of organizations over time will face a blockchain requirement. I was with the center, a manufacturer of beverage products who has stated within 3 years' time that they want blockchain kind of quality blockchain compliance across all their products in 3 years' time. And so that's spanning that manufacturer to distributor to retailer. So that we're going to see and hear more and more about those blockchain mandates coming down the pipe. And by going digital and getting it built into a way that you can see what's happening, where it's happening, what conditions are impacting the activities in the supply chain, you'll be building a foundation for blockchain, what I refer to as being blockchain ready. And I think that's just I can't stress it strongly enough. I agree and see with the organizations I work with that there's such an ambition towards digital, but companies really struggle getting over the first legs of it. And I can't encourage companies and the students that we're kind of graduating into the fields to really embrace the opportunity around technology and bringing technology in and turning it on to kind of transform the work that we do every day. So that's
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Yeah. From an industry perspective, all the way to a corporate perspective, to an implementation, that's what we've taken you through this panel. And now this is question and answer time. And since I'm the moderator, I get to ask the first question. I've spent the last 10 years, 8 years I've been in Asia. While we're talking about processes, we're talking about technology, out there, the cultures are extremely different. And how you implement any process or any technology in these countries is subject to the culture in that country or the companies or the processes that they adopt. So my open question to any and all of you is, how do you adjust your corporate strategies that are brought up in the US, and when you start implementing it in other parts of the world, in emerging countries, how do you take into account the cultural nuances of people living there who are customers or your suppliers or your worker, your employees? How do you take that into account in any of this? Please.
In my experience, we actually, there's more energy for these type of changes, leveraging technology to transform out in the regions than there is in corporate. So actually we're motivated by the regions wanting to transform And to your point, if you talk about Asia, let me take a step back. Actually, the biggest challenge then is how do we align that the regions don't do things too differently from each other, and how do we enable technology in a consistent manner, which is going to require consistent processes throughout. So the biggest challenge is not actually having passion, is how do we align passion throughout the regions, number one. Number two, from a, if I think about our suppliers in Asia or Southeast Asia, especially our contract manufacturers, from a toy manufacturer perspective, a lot of them are still behind in technology. So we do have challenges when we want to get data. We want to, even if they just send a spreadsheet that we can put on the cloud, but we do have challenges where that information is not readily available. So the challenge for the business is how do we qualify suppliers, not just from, now that technology is such a driver, how do we qualify suppliers with technology in mind? So a couple of thoughts there.
Venkit?
Yeah, so interesting question there. I was fortunate to live and work in Japan for 4 years, and having lived and worked in the US and going to Japan was truly an eye-opening experience. The challenges I faced were something different, not traditional in the supply chain, but connecting suppliers, producers for producing services for their customers. The challenge was they were using state-of-the-art technology. They were so process-centric, amazingly process-centric. The challenge I ran into as global head of operations and CIO was to have them open up and say it's okay not to be so rigid in your processes, but share, invite others to collaborate, participate, and things like that. So I had to go through a transformation, not necessarily from a process perspective, but from a human approach, a mindset perspective, in empowering them to think globally and act locally. That was my experience.
Similar, I think Yohan's described it so well. The regions have a lot of appetite. They want things done differently. They want things to come very, very fast because they experience a lot of their variability in the markets. So they want it fast. The challenge is because they want it that fast, they just go and do their own thing. And it's difficult for us sometimes to standardize and bring them back to a balance of, we want to be agile, we want to differentiate, but we want to be efficient. And I think that balancing act is really what supply chain is all about. So, culturally, not as much of a challenge for us. We do have regions that can only work with certain level of suppliers, can only use certain raw materials, and there are nuances, that does happen. But in terms of passion, as Yohan said, very much out there. I think many times the central corporate teams in the US actually we lag behind a little bit in that excitement for transformation.
I'd like to build a bit on that, just from a perspective too, that as a great perspective, that corporate tends to be the ones that try to over-engineer. And they want to solve for the whole equation. And quite honestly, pilots and multiple pilots and the concept of, is it move fast, fail often, or something like that, right? It's like, don't be afraid, but I think it is don't over-engineer. And I see a lot of organizations try to solve for the whole world problem all at once. A lot of times we've seen some of the best innovation come out of a region that can be a little bit more adept, and then we learn from that, because I do feel like corporate has a tendency to over-engineer and feel like they can't fail, right? So.
It's consistent with I've come back from Singapore the last couple of months, and the call drops and the Wi-Fi breakdowns in here. I think I've come back to a third world country after living in Korea and Singapore. So this is something that we have to emerge from. Now the floor is yours. If you want an interactive session, please, questions from the audience. Is there a mic out here?
We can
Surround
repeat
you?
your question.
We can hear you.
And we will repeat the question. Please, question.
You were all, Cindy was talking about the digitization of supply chains or supply networks. We heard about the enablers, cloud, analytics, IoT and blockchain. In the supply chain world, all of those enablers and with digitization, you're going to rely on these data flows, and these cross-border data flows are increasingly important. And yet, this year in particular, we're seeing a lot. We've seen the implementation of GDPR in May 25th in Europe. Obviously here in California, there's a law that was enacted and still sort of in flux, as I understand it, and due to go into effect in 2020. A lot of countries are looking at different approaches. In Asia, we have the APAC cross-border privacy rule system, and I guess to get to my question, maybe it's still early, since again, GDPR was May 25th, and California law, for example, was just last month, June. Is it impacting supply chains adversely, or is it too early to tell? And what would you like to see to address that particular issue?
I don't know if I can answer the question, but I'll give you maybe in the context of GDPR, at least our experience. GDPR, we try to solve the problem of GDPR or any other regulatory problem through consolidated data. So because of GDPR, we found out, as an example, we have 70 plus consumer databases. And it's impossible to apply rules efficiently across 70 plus databases. So the first step is to consolidate our consumer master data. So that's kind of how we're addressing these type of challenges from a technology perspective. When we hear something around product regulatory requirements, well, at least we have a single product master, so that allows us to be a little bit more nimble on adjusting and applying rules. So maybe that's a part of from an IT perspective.
Questions? Out there. We need two runners on both sides, I think, and two mics at least.
Hi. Thank you. This is a question specifically for Ms. Romero, but I guess anyone can answer it. I come from the food service and restaurant world, and so employee turnover is a big problem that we face in the restaurants. And so when I think about technology, much of it has to do with how people interact with that technology. And you mentioned all of your facilities and trying to make sure that they're all using data fields correctly. I'm curious how you approach that, how you train people, and what tools and resources you use to make sure that people are using technology and systems in a similar fashion, I guess.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. I think that's a great question. And it has been a challenge. I can tell you I was at a meeting yesterday, and by the way, we do have a USC grad that I'm looking right there, his name is Sandesh, that is actually helping us align many of these fields, and we haven't gone yet into the education piece. That is the next step, but we're trying to understand first, kind of like the semantic layer, how do we connect everything. One thing that I can share with you, I was at a meeting yesterday on this data and analytics, overall governance at Amgen and how we're going to manage it at a company-wide level. And we were identifying the different roles. We're creating actually new roles for this, data scientists and engineers and things like that are going beyond the typical software engineer role, but they're going more into the data. And we were talking about the importance of really, having linguists and data individuals that can actually translate and that I can actually work with the systems. So in a nutshell, I know I gave you maybe a little bit more than you needed, but we're doing two main things. One of them is understanding the data and creating the processes so that we can instruct and teach how to do it. But the other thing that we're doing in parallel is really hiring new profiles. Individuals like Sandesh, like Molly, who's right there, that is from USC as well, that are coming in, they have the background on how to manage the systems. They may be lacking the actual work experience, and we're trying to marry those by having the ones that have with the work experience interact with this new level of competencies that we don't have necessarily established at the company. So a little bit of in-house training, but also external recruiting to try to match those competencies.
Can I add? So I'll take a slightly different take on your question. We solved a problem where workforce, the particular company, the workforce was so distributed that they were experiencing turnover of different kind because they were not tethered to tenant organizations. So what we did is we said, let's address one super fundamental question. If I have a problem, who do I call? Make that information available at the affected level. And come up with FAQs that these people struggle with who are untethered or not tethered to their organization. Make sure that's available instantly. And because things change dynamically in the corporate, make sure they are available, made available to these distributed workforce on a dynamic basis. So very simple things we did and rolled out, and through some training, the attrition ratio, attrition percentage, dropped from high 2 digits to high single digits over a period of a few months. So it's a slightly different take on your problem, but it's possible to very simple understanding. The example you mentioned is you understand those basic data elements, understand basic things that people need, provide them, make it available instantly through technology, through cloud. So that's what we use. Ultimately, everything is about transformation, so we leverage cloud to make it happen.
Next question, out there in the middle. Inclusion, young lady there.
Sorry, I'm being heckled by my seatmate. I just really appreciate all of the commentary, and I think you hit on things that really resonate with me around governance and not over-engineering data so that it's actually actionable. And one of the things that I really liked about the last presentation, I'm curious with the mapping, is that that's kind of showing maybe real-time events, but then is that going to be marrying that with the predictive analytics to really look at, if it's hurricane season in the U.S., are you then tracking your greater probability, right, to experience an incident against where your locations are? And then can you actually then tie that to what are your contingency plans and what risk mitigation have you already put in place? Because that's an area that I always feel is very underserved in supply chain, because it's very much of a gung-ho, we all get together in the war room and address the issue, and that's being reactive and not really being proactive. And so how do you see that?
Thank you. So what's nice about putting it all out there is that in addition to doing real-time visibility and reaction, and hopefully we just had General Motors speak at a conference with us last month, and the fact that they were able to reduce reaction times from days to hours in a case of an emergency or crisis meant lives saved, better quality of outcome for their distributors and customers. But over time, as this data collects, it's to apply machine learning and AI to that information so that it can simulate and predict and also proactively warn of potential disruptions over time, apply different layers of risk analysis to suppliers, to location of distribution, to carriers, to routes on the road, so that even though it's not just about getting from point A to point B. We just had a carrier meeting. They have 1,000 vehicles on the road every day, and how can they use historic information and simulate that forward so they now can have that optimum delivery schedule for their workforce and for their trucks. So it's absolutely doing that. By digitizing it, not only being able to react in real time, you're collecting a history map of not only your assets and process, the weather over time, social and political unrest over time. Those create patterns that now help not just predict, but kind of mitigate altogether disruption. So, great question.
Noemi?
I wanted to share with you, and I love the analytics that you showed, and I did notice, I think, some of the hurricane forms in the picture were going to the island of Puerto Rico. And I got scared, I'm like, oh, that's not a new prediction. But I did want to share with the individual that asked the question that last year, of course, you know about Hurricane Maria. I had actually moved out of the island 2 months prior, but it lived the entire thing, the entire recovery of Amgen. Amgen has, as I mentioned earlier, in Puerto Rico, the biggest facility, so about 80% of the production of the company, it's done in the island, so it was a huge thing, and we had, very visionary leaders, had an excellent risk mitigation platform, very good infrastructure. So we actually had manufacturing facilities that never stopped operating even throughout the hurricane. And the eye of the hurricane actually went through Amgen. So that's how good the facilities are and the risk mitigation platform of the company. However, I did want to share with you that the biggest issue that we had was with systems. So the infrastructure was good, we had the inventory, we had risk mitigation plans with vendors to bring in material to take out, we had charter planes, we had everything. But telecommunications became sort of like the single point of failure. And we ended up having to invest so much in creating parallel systems that were localized, that could actually feed and provide network environments and wireless environments to the individuals in the plant. So there's always a trade-off to everything. Digitalization is great, cloud-based is great, but if you happen to be connected in a way where you don't have any local backup, it becomes a big risk. So I just wanted to share that with you, to always keep in mind that the IS infrastructure may be the biggest problem at the end.
Last question, any burning questions? Right here in front. Please. The question was on cybersecurity and transparency. There is a conflict there, and how do you resolve this conflict? Anybody want to take it?
So the challenges that we see are not as much in exchange information, because I think once we have a partner that's on our network, they follow our security protocols. So I don't think that's the challenge. I think the challenge is actually bringing cybersecurity awareness to our value chain, to our partners. So, for example, especially when we are going back to regions, whether it's Asia, Southeast Asia, like Noemi said, they like to go for their own solutions sometimes. And they forget the risk of going their own solution may actually introduce security risk into our entire environment. So how do we educate them on our corporate policy, on our cybersecurity policy, and how do we inform not just the IT portion of it, but also the supply chain professional on that is critical. But once they understand, then it becomes part of the process.
Anybody else? Venkit?
About 55% use Excel. To me, if there's a threat, the connected system sharing information to attachments. Now, if you transform yourself, and let's say we have cloud-based platform, by definition, they come with built-in security to what you want. So therefore, you're far more secure in a connected world from that perspective than in a less transformed world. So I would say that embracing the newer technology will force you to introduce that connectivity, but be more rigorous and thorough about your security program.
A big round of applause to our panelists here. And thank you for your participation. Appreciate it. Lunch is served.